Super job.
Thank you. Thank you. Please, please. Thanks. It's great to be in Montana. I first and foremost want to say sorry about the tie. This isn't exactly the best Montana tie. This is more a New York City tie, but a guy like me, I'm away from home probably 60 or 70% of the night, so I never know quite what I'm dressing for. So it's great to be with you. It's great to be in Butte. I was in Billings yesterday. As Max said, 3 years ago we decided to invest in Billings. We built a high-tech business process outsourcing center. It's the type of thing that probably 10 years ago we would have put in India. We wanted to test it here to see if we could build a greenfield site, if we could have the best people, best trained people. Could we get a cost position and quality position that could be globally competitive? The team has made great progress. I feel great about what they've done, and I really think this site can be scaled in Billings and will be a site that you can be proud of in the state of Montana in terms of what can be done in this state that can be globally competitive. I'm going to try today to talk about the global economy. CEOs aren't great economists. I myself got B's and B minuses in economics in college, so we're not always the best to talk about it. Flying out here, like Warren said, I read the New York Times on the trip out here, and we wrote about it's the weakest post-recession job recovery in a century, lack of trust in institutions, discontent with the size of government, anxious about our ability to solve problems. If you read that every day, you sense that the country's just in a bad mood. That's not what I see, fundamentally. When I look across the variety of GE businesses, we see the world getting better. Maybe not as fast as we'd like, but generally getting better. Revenue passenger miles, which dominates the airline industry, is better. Demand for credit is better. Pricing for advertisements is better. Rail loadings are better. And, slowly but surely, we're pulling out of this. And I fundamentally believe that the momentum is positive in our orders. We see it across the board. I think it's going to leave us with a couple big economic factors. We live in a different world. We live in a multi-speed world where the emerging markets are going to grow faster than the developed world. We live in a world where the developed markets are going to have to delever. We live in a world where there's more structural unemployment, so we have to figure out ways to create jobs. But I think in complicated times, it's always best to simplify your life. And I would say whether you're a small business owner, a big CEO of a big company like me, a governor, a senator, Max or John Tester, or anybody, we fundamentally have one problem this country needs to solve. We have to grow faster. Growth. Growth. That is the central challenge that everybody in this room shares, is how to grow faster. Now, for the last 30 years, this country ran a play. And the play was called more credit to the consumer, more leverage, being more of an importer than an exporter, transitioning from manufacturing to services. And that's the play we basically ran from the late 1970s till the 2008 recession. That play can't be duplicated, shouldn't be duplicated. And the country in many ways needs both a reset and a renewal about how we conceptualize ourselves and how we focus on growth. And really what I want to share with you today are kind of 5 ideas that we're doing inside GE. And what I'm going to try to do is just translate those into Montana in my own, really all I really know much about as a human being is GE anymore. So I have to give you that context from the start. But I'll do my best to translate it into what it means to you here in Montana. 5 things. First, we've got to invest more in technology and innovation. Only natural resources or patents really make a state or a country wealthy. So technology and innovation has to grow. We've got to rejuvenate our exports and manufacturing base. There's 1 billion new consumers in the emerging markets, and we need to be the leader in accessing and selling to those consumers. Third, we need leadership in 2 of the big factors of our lifetime: clean energy and affordable health care. I've been in more than 100 countries since I've taken over as CEO of GE. And every country has four things that they're looking for: sound financial system, better education, an energy strategy, and a healthcare strategy. And as long as you're investing in those things that are important to people around the world, you're going to grow. Fourth, we all have to recognize that banking is essential for growth. It's impossible to hate banks and like growth. This division between Wall Street and Main Street is artificial. We need a great banking system, a great financial system to drive long-term growth. And fifth, there's real power in the enterprise in the capitalistic system. Big companies and small companies working together, government and business working together, and that's what we have to do. I'm an optimist, but I'm a tough-minded optimist. I've learned how to deal with reality, but I'm determined to take our company and this country into the 21st century. So let me go into each one of those five in a little bit more detail. Leadership in technology and innovation. The country has generally invested less in R&D over the last 30 years. Today, companies have a lot of cash. GE today has more cash than at any time in our history, $75 billion. We invested more in research and development throughout the recession. Today, we invest almost 6% of our revenue back into R&D. We've got 45,000 engineers in the company. We will introduce 30% more products this year than in any year in our history. We'll have more partnerships. We're investing in more adjacencies. And I'll give you just a few examples. This year, we'll launch the GE9X engine. It's the most fuel-efficient jet engine in history. It's been $1 billion investment. It's going to go on the Boeing Dreamliner. It'll be manufactured in the United States. It's a fantastic new product. This year, we'll launch a new battery technology, a sodium battery technology that will help our utility customers store energy so that we can increase the amount of renewable energy on the grid. This year, we'll make a big investment in thin-film solar. This is a more efficient, it's almost a 20% efficient technology, one of the most efficient in the industry. It will be a couple $100 million investment in the United States. This year, we'll introduce markers that can diagnose Alzheimer's in a living patient so that we can treat this horrible disease more cost-effectively and with better quality of life. That's just a sample of the technology that we'll come across as a company. I mention those just because those will all have a basis in the U.S. Those all in some way could be done in Montana, or the supply chain could be in Montana. It's high-tech, productive technology that our customers are looking for. So my first word of advice is, a town like Butte, maybe it was built on copper, but the future of Butte is probably Montana Tech. It's probably right here. It's how many engineers, it's how many consortiums, it's can you create good partnerships around core technology that you want to be good at. And I think if this state, if the towns in this state can pick 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 technologies that Montana can be the best in the country or the best in the world at, you're going to find companies like GE that want to invest. So lead in technology, that's point number one. Point number two, the country has to be a better exporter. And to be a better exporter, we have to be a better manufacturer. 7% of the US GDP is exports. 35% of the German GDP is exports. We have almost $1 trillion trade deficit. We talked ourselves into the fact that this country could become a service economy, a lazy economy, I would call it. It's just wrong. It just was stupid. It was insane. Our destiny is to be an exporter. Our destiny as a country has to be an exporter. If we could just double our exports as a percentage of GDP from 7 to 14 or 15%, that's millions of new jobs. If Germany can do it, we can do it. So that's what we have to do. To be a good exporter, you have to do a couple things. First, companies like GE, look, we're adding salespeople, we're adding innovation centers. We are today a $40 billion company, and just in the emerging markets around the world, we're a $20 billion exporter. We're the second biggest exporter behind Boeing. So we need to satisfy our customers in Saudi Arabia and every corner of the world and show them that innovation in this country and great products from this country can be successful because we're solving their needs. We're investing in their needs. We need to work with the US government. We need things like the Exim Bank to be very effective. We make 125 heavy-duty gas turbines in the United States. We're the world's leader. 10 of those are shipped in the US. 115 go outside the United States. So we need, to really compete rigorously in every corner of the world. And the third thing is that the American worker is a productive worker. We have to give them the tools in lean manufacturing and quality to make them effective. We actually have gone through an exploration in our appliance business, and we're in the process of moving almost all of our appliance production back to the United States from Mexico and China. Not out of sympathy. Look, my name's not above the door. I work for investors. This is not out of sympathy or anything else. This is because the costs are lower and the quality is better. So we've got to reinvigorate the manufacturing base and the export base. We have to take it seriously. So my message to the people in this room is everybody in this room should have a China strategy, should have an India strategy, should have a Middle East strategy, whether you're a farmer or in the oil business or you're in the healthcare business, because your life will intersect with these countries. And for those of you that are manufacturers, high-tech manufacturers, working with companies like ours, we can grow and be effective as an exporter in the future. Number 3, clean energy and affordable healthcare. These are two of the big themes of the 21st century and are going to go forward. And I've always thought it was better to be, if you align yourself with big themes, you can grow faster. You don't have to think about it every year. And these are two big themes that will be with us for a long time. We're a $41 billion energy company and a $20 billion healthcare company, so we've really put our money where our mouth is in these two themes. In energy, U.S. is the only country of scale in the world that doesn't have an energy policy. And I don't know. Things in Washington are hard these days, and I don't know if we ever will. But at the same time, look, there will be a total transformative change towards a clean energy future. And there's going to be trillions of dollars invested and millions of jobs created as you look out over the next coming months and years. So my advice to you, if you're an entrepreneur or if you're in this state, look, I think big evolutionary investment in natural gas, conservation. Warren talked about it earlier, but we're long in electric vehicles. I think that's going to have a great future. Montana's a great wind state, so wind is going to, I think, continue to grow in the future. Big baseload technologies, we've got to find a way to make more productive use of coal. So gasification technology is going to be incredibly important. I think it'd be nice to have certainty around standards. We need to have a price for carbon at some point in time. But even without that, trillions of dollars are going to be invested in energy, and there's no reason why this country shouldn't lead. And what I would say from a Montana context is if there's not going to be a national play in energy, a state can make a difference. And you can build experiments, you can build policy here that will make Montana a great place to invest as this clean energy future takes place. Similarly, in healthcare, really healthcare is a big growth industry outside the United States. It's 15% of the US GDP. I think healthcare reform did increase access in healthcare, and it was courageous to take it on, but that's just, we're going to be talking about healthcare in the United States for the next 100 years. This is not something that's going to be solved in a day or a month. I think one of the things that we learned is that probably it's not going to be solved on a national level. Healthcare is going to be solved on a local and regional level. For companies like GE, we're going to invest $3 billion on technology that's going to drive cost, quality, and access. So these are lower cost devices, it's information technology, it's services that can help our hospital customers be more productive. We're going to invest a lot of money to really try to drive healthcare costs down, quality up, and access up. And I think in many ways Montana could be a leader in this space as we look forward in the future. At the same time, we spend $3 billion on employee healthcare costs. I